Let's get into a little bit of the nittier and grittier campaign strategy that's going on now and take a look at a few maps. Some people don't have maps, as Miss South Carolina once famously told us, but we have maps today. Let's talk about New Hampshire and let's talk about North Carolina. There is new reporting that the Trump campaign is abandoning New Hampshire on the belief that it is gone. It is only the first few days of September. We've just passed Labor Day. And the reporting is that they're pulling the plug on New Hampshire. They don't believe they can win. They believe it is in the bag for Kamala Harris and are pulling funding and staffers from the state. This is based on leaked insider emails from the Trump campaign. They, quote, no longer think New Hampshire is winnable and are pulling back. Tom Mountain, former Republican Party vice chair in Massachusetts, sent an email to volunteers saying the campaign has determined New Hampshire is no longer a battleground state and that Trump is sure to lose by an even larger margin in New Hampshire than he did in 2016 and 2020. Now, there are two sides to this story. First of all, the polling. We don't have a ton of new polling in New Hampshire. There's one poll from August that shows Harris +5. There's two polls from late July. One shows Harris +4. One shows Harris +6. So on average, you average this together. It's basically a 5-point lead for Kamala Harris. You might say, well, I mean, 5, that doesn't seem like. New Hampshire is a unique state in a lot of different ways. The margins are often very, very small. And at this stage of the game, a signal that says it's all Harris all the way by 5 points is really a sign that that is not going to go well for Donald Trump. Now, here's the counterpoint in terms of what this means for the November election. And there's two interpretations. Interpretation number one is the one I'm sort of alluding to here. And this is a map of the 2020 results that I have on the screen. Interpretation number one of the Trump campaign bailing in New Hampshire this early is we have a potential landslide here. You would normally fight for New Hampshire all the way to the end. And it's a very, very bad sign for Donald Trump. But there's a counter narrative, and I think it's important to acknowledge it, which is Trump won in 2016 without New Hampshire, and Trump lost in 2020 without New Hampshire. And in a sense, New Hampshire, with its 4 electoral votes, is unlikely to be the difference maker. And case in point, if we start with last election's map, and we were to flip New Hampshire to Trump, which brings them just a little bit closer, it doesn't really change the dynamics in the sense that if Trump can get Georgia and Arizona, even with New Hampshire, it is still not enough. He would need something else. If Trump is unable to get Georgia and Arizona and they stay with Biden, but he's able to flip 2 of the 3 Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. You know, if he gets Pennsylvania and Michigan, he wins. In this one scenario, New Hampshire matters because if you flip New Hampshire back, you have this unicorn scenario, 269 to 269. But that is considered an extremely unlikely scenario. If you look at flipping Wisconsin, instead of Michigan, then it is not enough even with New Hampshire. And so the point I'm trying to make is that as you go through these different scenarios, the odds that New Hampshire becomes the difference maker are very, very low. Would you like to have it? Sure. But you can really interpret this 2 different ways. The default reflexive one is, wow, they're giving up on New Hampshire. This thing is over. I think the more cautious and prudent approach is in most scenarios, New Hampshire doesn't make a difference. He won in 2016 without it, and he lost in 2020 without it. And save for this 269 scenario that lots of people like to talk about, but is mathematically very unlikely, it is not likely to be a place actually worth fighting for Donald Trump. So sign of disaster is interpretation number one. Pragmatic, calculated decision is interpretation number 2. Now, I do want to say one other thing. Donald Trump, there's competing reports about what's happening in North Carolina. And in fact, let's maybe put this back up on the board here. North Carolina, which Donald Trump won in 2020, there are reports that say Trump's giving up on North Carolina because he is cutting spending there, reportedly from 10 to 3 million. I don't think that's the right narrative. To me, the right narrative in North Carolina is Trump is having to spend money in North Carolina. Yes, he's spending less money next month than he did last month. But the fact that Trump is even having to think about fighting for North Carolina, that's genuinely a bad sign for Donald Trump and potentially a good sign for Kamala Harris. So that's the latest as far as the states go. Let's now talk about what's going on with this election and Donald Trump's wife. Are you aware that there are hundreds of commercial databases and people search sites holding your personal information? And the number just keeps growing. Anyone, your boss, your ex, can use these sites to look at your online activity, home addresses, phone numbers, emails, license plate, family members, financial details, even political beliefs. In Europe, they have laws protecting against this, but it's still a free-for-all in the United States. Even the FBI will sometimes purchase data from companies like these to obtain private information about Americans without even getting a search warrant. Now, our sponsor, Incogni, offers a solution. Signing up takes just seconds. Incogni sends takedown notices to major data brokers, compelling them to remove your information as they are legally required to do. Incogni keeps you updated every step of the way with live information about which companies have complied, which are in progress. Incogni even will follow up and appeal on your behalf, saving you hundreds of hours of work. Very much worth it. This can also cut down on how many spam phone calls and emails you get, since scammers and solicitors are getting your info from the very same lists. Go to incogni.com/Pacman and you'll get 60% off with code Pacman. The link is down below.